Hey friends, welcome back. Today we are going to be looking at the decks that I'll be using this Halloween season. So today I'll be sharing the decks that I plan on using for this Halloween season. And what I thought would be fun was to kind of combine this with a really cool tarot deck challenge that I saw posted online. It's hosted by Boars of Valor and it's called Tarot Hide and Seek. And I feel like I love these challenges. If you watch my channel, you know I love the challenges. I feel like it's a perfect way to use your decks, especially when you are having those periods of time when you're in a slump and you're not in the mood to pull cards for yourself, but you still want to be able to work with your decks. I find a challenge like this to be perfect. So the first deck that I'm gonna show you is my Bohemian Gothic, and this deck is newer to my collection. I just did an unboxing for it and it's really interesting and unique. I spent a week with the guidebook reading into all of the art and the background, the way that the cards may have been intended. It was very interesting for me to go through the deck on my own and kind of pull my own interpretations and then go back and read the book and see. And when I first saw this card, I thought it was hysterical because it looked like the skeleton was mocking death. And after reading the book, I found out that this particular skeleton is meant to be a marionette. And I thought that was fascinating. It adds a whole other level to the readings, and there were a lot of great little nuggets in the book. So one of the questions that I found on the challenge was, and this is meant to be done with absolutely any deck. It's meant to be just as it is, right? A hide and seek. So the question is a deck that has a figure that reminds you of a real life person. And the first thing that I thought of when I was going through this deck and I got to this card, like this image really struck me. I feel like I know this person. I cannot put my finger on it. I feel like this may be based on a real life movie actress. I feel like I've seen her before. I feel like I've seen that look on her face, that smirk. And I've been racking my brains trying to think of who she might be. I'm not sure. If anybody knows, please let me know. Because I feel like this is based off of a real life person. So that was that card. And then next question would be a card that you did not expect to like. And I particularly thought of this deck for that, especially this card here, the 10 of Pentacles. When I first saw this card, I didn't know what to make of it because, you know, you have this couple outside. She almost appears to be barefoot. He's carrying what looks like maybe personal belongings on his back. And then you have this figure in the background and the dog that looks a bit menacing. And I couldn't understand. I read the book, and the more I sat on it and the more that I thought about it, it started to kind of come together and make sense for me. And what I'm seeing is this young couple, maybe not in the best of situations, but happy with where they currently are in life. And it's interesting that they happen to pass this really large house. Probably the people that are in there are maybe well to do. And then you have this lonesome figure in the background, maybe looking out, and I don't know, maybe I was thinking maybe wishing that he had some of that closeness, that feeling of family and togetherness that you think of when you see the Ten of Pentacles. But then because this is a darker deck, you know, it's almost like maybe jealousy or envy. Is what I thought of when I saw this card. So instead of the usual Ten of Pentacles, and you see the many generations and generational wealth being passed from one family to the next, one generation to the next, here you see something quite different. And so when I first saw the card, I was like, this makes no sense to me. But the more I thought about it, the more I liked the card. So I thought that would be a perfect card to show. The next deck that I'll be working with, of course, is my Dark Mansion. I love this deck. I have always loved it. I saw this and I felt like, oh my, I need to have that. And I worked with it. I enjoyed it. And I just love its little innuendos and, you know, hidden meanings. I feel like this is the side-eye deck. This deck always has something to say, but not direct. It's always like, you know, that offhanded, you know, comment or a backhanded compliment. And I just think it's hysterical. And I've really enjoyed working with it. So a couple of the questions that I picked out that I thought this would be good for was a card that reminds you of a specific scene in a movie. And I went through the deck and I picked this card out. And this is the Four of Swords. And I thought to myself, this scene reminds me a lot of, if you've ever seen the movie version of Phantom of the Opera, that scene where she goes back to the cemetery. That's what this reminds me of. That's exactly what this reminds me of. So I had to share that. And then one of the other prompts was a card that looks like fall. And I had to go here with the Seven of Pentacles because, of course, those are pentacles, but they're very reminiscent of pumpkins. In fact, you know, this is a bit of a harvest, which is what you see this time of year. And you can see maybe like a cabbage patch here and the apple orchard in the back. And I thought this would be perfect representation of what the fall harvest season looks like. So this is the Dark Mansion. The next deck that I am gonna be working with this month is gonna be, of course, the Nightmare Before Christmas. And I've talked about this deck before. I have like mixed feelings on it. I'm not sure if this is gonna stay or go in my collection, but I'm hoping to work with it a little bit more this season and kind of see. It is rather unique. I don't have any other decks like this. A bit pippish, but you know, when you work with a deck, you do find that you can, you know, overlook that. So anywho, I plan to work with this deck, and a couple of the prompts that I saw that I thought would be awesome with this deck were favorite card. So of course I had to pick this card here. I love this representation, the Hanged Man, and I love the fact that it's Santa, as he calls him, Santa Claus. And I just love this card so much in this deck, and I had to share that one. And the other prompt that I saw that I thought was really interesting was your favorite moon card. And I selected the moon card from this deck because I love this is like slightly different than moon cards that you would see. Of course, you know, we have our little jack-o'-lanterns down here, which of course are perfect for the season. But I feel like in this scene in the movie, it's like he's having this slow moment, and as he's singing, I feel like he's having a bit of a revelation himself. And I love that that's the scene that they chose to portray on this particular card. So for that reason, I selected the moon card from this deck. The next deck that I am hoping to work with is actually an oracle deck. This is my Alice the Wonderland. And I have said before, I really like this deck. It's like perfect for this time of year. There is a lot of things to go through, lots to unpack. And it's just great for journaling, great for self-reflection, self-discovery. I like how deep you can go with this deck, especially if you use the guidebook. And so I want to make sure that I spend some time with this deck this time of year to do some of that work, right? So I'll share with you real quick a couple of the prompts that I saw that would be fitting for this deck. So let's see, a card that looks like a work of art. So of course, this is my interpretation, right? I had to choose this card because of course it very much in the Vincent van Gogh style, right? With the Starry Night. And Vincent van Gogh is just one of my favorite artists, and his story is so deep and profound and so sad. And so I love that this card is in this deck. So I chose that one. And then there was a prompt that said a card that featured an air animal. And so I thought this was really interesting because in this particular card, there are many air animals. In fact, now that I'm looking at it, I think maybe this guy is the only one that is not, right? Everybody else seems to be to belong to the air. So yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 figures. And the message on this card is lead the way. Be a leader, show others how it's done. You can help others. I feel like with all these birds on here, it's a huge message on communication. And maybe that's how you lead the way, is using your voice. So anyway, that's the card that I chose. And one of the oracle decks that I'll be using in conjunction with my tarot decks. And the last deck that I am gonna be working with is it's a personal favorite. I love this deck. This was a love at first sight type of thing. I saw this on Kickstarter, and the images I thought were so profound, haunting, almost inviting. And the more I read about the creator and about the story behind these two characters, the girl and the skeleton, the more I felt like I needed to have this deck in my collection. It's the only skeleton deck that I have. And I just love it. I use this deck when I want to do ego work, is when this deck comes in very handy for me. And the story I think the creator went through a period of time where she was very depressed, and so she created, this character here that kept her company in the darkest of times. And when I bought the deck, I went ahead and I got the accompanying book that came with it. The book is stunning. I just love it. And there's so much great information in there, not just about tarot, but about the artist and the figures and the way that this deck came to be. I want to say originally it started like she was doing comics with these characters, and then someone threw out the idea, oh, you should do a tarot deck, and so here it is. This is what ended up happening. So this is a deck that I very much love. I especially like to use it this time of year. And so card that made me want to get the deck, that would be this card here, the Six of Cups. And I'll bring it in a little. And when I looked at this card, I felt a certain kind of way. I almost kind of looked at it as if this was the inner child and she was just wanting to repress that figure, the memories that are associated right back into, I feel like if she could have put that skeleton back into those cups, she would. And it was such a powerful moment when I saw this card and I reflected on it, that this was it. I saw this card and I had to get the deck. I just had to. And of course that is a different interpretation, right, than what they intended when they created, but that's what I felt and that's what I saw. And so that's what caused me to say, you know what, I need this deck. So that would be the card that made me get the deck. And then the next one will be favorite death card. And you can see here, right, if you think to yourself, the girl is you, like the girl is you, and the skeleton is your imaginary person that you've made up to help you get through some of the darkest moments of your life. And this is actually the death of the girl, and the skeleton is crying out. I don't know. There's just something about that concept. The fact that what you created, you have to go through changes, right? You cannot be your same self for extended periods, for your entire lifetime. You go through several different versions of yourself, each time trying to become your best self. And so in order to do that, you have to let go of the past. And you can see here that Skelly doesn't want to. He doesn't want to let her go because that is his very best friend that he's known, and he doesn't want any other versions of her. He just wants her. So very powerful death card. I really love this particular one. And I pulled this card out as well because I don't know, like the way that he consoles her, like he's just always there for her when she is having these trying moments. And it's not like, it's almost like, you know what, it's okay, I feel your pain too. That's kind of what I feel. Anyways, I love this deck. I love working with it. I like the insights. It makes me look at things in a completely different way than any of my other decks. And I'm really looking forward to playing with this deck this month. So this is a lot. I usually don't work with this many decks. If you think about it, it's like 1 oracle and 4 tarot decks. So we shall see how it goes. But this is how I plan to spend the next 4 weeks. And I would be curious to see what decks you are going to be working with over this Halloween season. And that's what I have for you. Thank you so much for tuning in and for watching and letting me share. I appreciate you all. And I can't wait to see what decks you'll be using.